This is Beth Phillipson again with part two of my presentation. I'm sorry I wasn't able to condense it into 50. I know there was a 15-minute maximum, but I'm going a bit over just because I found so much information. So again, going back to this wall hanging I have in my bedroom, it was created by Navajo artist Ray Silva, and I bought it at a Native American gallery downtown. And I am not Navajo. So would this be cultural appropriation or appreciation? There are three questions you can ask yourself that were created by Louis Gong, owner and founder of Eighth Generation in Seattle. So Louis Gong is an indigenous business owner, and Eighth Generation is his response to the seventh generation company. So he says, is the artist or product creator native? Is the company native owned? Is the artist or creator fairly and equitably compensated? So I believe the answer to all three of those questions is yes. So I believe that even though I am not native, I believe that my artwork is cultural appreciation and not appropriation. So I believe it's ethically good. Okay. All right. Okay, and so one of the Zoom meetings that I attended was one on how Native Americans view mental health and wellness. This was presented by Kathleen Littleleaf. She is based in Montana. And so some things that I learned are the image on the far right is a medicine wheel, and often within indigenous cultures, this medicine wheel can be found in Wyoming. And so often, she said, in indigenous cultures, that indigenous people view they take a holistic view of health and wellness. And I don't mean to lump all indigenous people together. This is just one perspective from Ms. Littleleaf, who's based in Montana, but an overarching theme in indigenous health and wellness is the holistic view, circle of life, circle teachings, and so this is the Bighorn medicine wheel in Wyoming. Okay, and then she explains some circle teachings that we should, within the individual, we should look at the spiritual, emotional, mental health, and physical health within the individual. And then she addressed this wellness and cycle of creating balance between these four parts during COVID-19. And I'm sorry, I can't read the writing; it's too small. So also within the circle teachings, she thinks that taking again a holistic view, that we should look at the individual, the family, the community, and the nation. Okay, so Native Americans were in the news a lot this year. About a month ago, there was what was called the Something Else scandal on social media, which you may have heard of. During a CNN exit poll, actually this was in early November, so it was just a few weeks ago, CNN published an exit poll which broke down the who would you vote for president by race, and the racial categories were white, Latino, Black, Asian, and something else, which was apparently supposed to refer to indigenous people, and many of whom took offense at that name. Some found it funny, some were offended, but again, it just points to, the people with no name, like what should we call you? And so it was, so they were just called something else. Okay, and so This year's presidential election, which, as we know, was very close, but despite suffering from COVID-19, many Indigenous people turned out in record numbers and swung the vote within their states. In Arizona, the Navajo Nation showed overwhelming support for Joe Biden, and 97% gave support to Biden. And so why is this significant? It's because even though Indigenous people are a small portion of the U.S. population, and they are often ignored, they can have a huge impact on our political process. And so the Navajo Nation was credited with swinging the vote and making Arizona a blue state. Okay, and then I have a tweet from Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez. He said the first Americans of this country, including a large majority of Navajo voters, had a major impact on the outcome of the presidential election in several swing states, and he wanted this contribution from his nation to be acknowledged. So even, like I said, a very small portion of the U.S. population can have a major impact on the political elections that affect us all. Okay, and then the impact of COVID-19 on Native American reservations. You may have heard about this. I heard about this a lot, especially in South Dakota. And according to Abigail Echo Hawk, director of the Urban Indian Health Institute, Native Americans were 3.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with COVID-19 than other U.S. populations. And you may wonder, well, how can that be? Aren't many Indigenous people already sequestered on reservations? Why doesn't it affect them so disproportionately? And the answer to that is because the poverty on reservations, Indigenous people lack the health care. They're isolated and they lack the transportation to health care and health care that they need. Okay, so Native Americans in politics. This year, the U.S. election set a record, and 6 people of Indigenous or Native American ancestry were elected to the U.S. Congress. They include, from left to right, Mark Wayne Mullen, a Republican from Oklahoma, Sharice Davids, Democrat from Kansas, and Kai Haley, a Democrat from Hawaii, Deb Haaland, Democrat from New Mexico, Tom Cole, a Republican from Oklahoma, and finally Yvette Harrell, a Republican from New Mexico. Okay, and then also this year, you may not have heard this in the news, but Mark Charles was an independent presidential candidate who ran as an Indigenous candidate, and I copied some of his tweets. And one of the bottom tweets says, what kind of a country celebrates Native American Heritage Day on Black Friday, the most colonial and consumeristic day of the year? So again, another cultural insult. So that is Mark Charles. Okay, and then finally, if you're interested in Indigenous activism and organizations, the ones that, there are several, but the ones that I recommend are the American Indian Movement, and the Association on American Indian Affairs. And then finally, there's a lot of activism within the Native Governance Center. They have a cohort panel they call Rebuilders. So and this is basically an organization of tribal nations across the U.S., and they are collaborating with each other and trying to bring back Indigenous culture and languages. And I follow them on Instagram. So building an indigenized future, the 7th generation philosophy. I attended one of their Zoom meetings. Okay, and that concludes my presentation. I apologize for going over the 15-minute maximum limit. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. I couldn't edit it down to 15 minutes, and I tried to talk as fast as I could. But anyway, here's another meme. Um, I am very active on social media, and I find that useful in making connections with um, with people within important organizations such as Sal Serban from the Florida chapter of the American Indian Movement. He and I are Facebook friends, and then I follow the Native Governance Center on Instagram. And I got the memes that, most of the memes that I hope you've been enjoying, I got those from Fort Peck Sioux on Instagram. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I thank you for watching it.